Hello students, welcome to EPG Parshala. I am Dr. S.P. Sood, retired Associate Professor and Head, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. Today we are going to talk on module Cooperative Cataloging, Centralized Cataloging, Union Catalog and MARC project under paper Knowledge Organizational Structure Cataloging. Library cooperation is essentially a development of the 20th century. Its evolution has its roots in social, economic, and technological changes and advances of the last 75 years or so. Cooperation has helped to mitigate the disability of limited resources, to coordinate methods and activities, and to bring about the standardization and uniformity in the administration of services offered to the public. Objectives of the modules are as follows. First, to define cooperative cataloging and discuss its need and purpose, advantages and disadvantages, and its various forms. To define centralized cataloging and discuss its objectives, advantages, disadvantages, and its various forms. To define union catalog and discuss its advantages. Fourth one, to discuss MARC 1st and MARC 2nd and MARC 21. Cooperative cataloging. Through cooperative cataloging, cooperating libraries share and avoid the wasteful duplication of cataloging process at individual libraries in producing a catalog for their mutual benefit and also for the benefit of other libraries. Definition of cooperative cataloging. The various authorities of library science have defined cooperative cataloging. Some definitions are as follows. First definition is by Harrod's Librarian's Glossary. The sharing by a number of libraries of cost and or labor of cataloging to avoid the duplication of effort common to each. Second definition is by ALA Glossary of Library Terms. The production of catalog entries through the joint action of several libraries in order to avoid duplication of effort, particularly the plan by which cooperating libraries prepare copies of catalog cards to be printed by the Library of Congress. Third definition is by C.D. Needham. He has defined cooperative cataloging in the following words. Cooperative cataloging refers to a situation where a number of independent libraries share the work of producing a catalog for their mutual benefit. Cooperative cataloging may operate at local level between two or more adjacent library systems, at regional level as in the compilation of regional union catalog of, or at national level. National cooperative cataloging is often combined with national centralized cataloging so that the widest possible coverage of publications is represented by the catalog entries available in any library. S.M. Tripathi has enumerated the objectives of cooperative cataloging as follows, as under. First, it is economical. It means there is a lot of economy in the process, in the time and in the cost, etc. Second, to avoid the duplication in cataloging processes of the participating libraries. Third, it helps to locate the document even its absence. Fourth, the most important object of the cooperative cataloging is to reveal the total resources of a region, which enables to readers to select the desired materials. Need and purpose. Library cooperation and cooperative cataloging is not a new concept. In 1850 Penizzi prepared catalogue for British Museum and also a union catalogue of works published in English in Great Britain or its colonies. The volume of information being published rapidly and also gets obsolete quickly. So acquisition of all desirable material gets problematic. Sharing of information or resources through the library cooperation provides a best solution for this critical issue. It avoids wastage of money, manpower, and machinery by centralizing the work. Library catalog provides bibliographical information of a collection of a particular library, where the union catalog provides the bibliographic information about the collection of libraries with different physical location of information. Advantages: efficient and adequate catalog entries are available. Delay in cataloging is reduced. There will be saving of labor and time of the staff, and they can concentrate on other activities. There will be huge economy as printed cards will be cheaper. Disadvantages: there are some disadvantages also. First one is catalog cards for certain titles of books cannot be supplied by cooperative cataloging agency. Second, it will decrease the number of skilled catalogers. Third, the cataloging agency does not enjoy the copyright. Books will have to be sent to the cataloging agency by participating libraries, which will be a difficult process. Forms of cooperative cataloging. The Library of Congress is continuing a cooperative cataloging program. In this program, other libraries are expected to contribute catalog card copies for printing. Each copy is edited by the Library of Congress so as to correlate it with other entries provided on the LC cards. These edited copies are printed and distributed to subscribers. Since 1965, the Library of Congress has established a global network of national and regional offices for international cooperation. These offices supply bibliographical data which serves as a basis for the cataloging by the Library of Congress. A good example of cooperative cataloging is the possibility of the certain of a union catalog on the basis of data supplied by the individual libraries. Centralized cataloging. In a library system where there is a central library having some branch libraries, many activities are performed repeatedly. If a central library takes this work on behalf of its branches, the qualitative work can be done economically and uniformly. If the purchased book itself gives the catalog entry or publisher supplies the catalog entry along with the book, the burden of classifying and cataloging will be reduced to a large extent. These all can be possible through centralized cataloging. Definitions of centralized cataloging. Harold's Labyrinth Glossary has defined centralized cataloging as: first, the cataloging of books by some central bureau and the distribution therefrom of entries. Second, Harold's Labyrinth Glossary has given two definitions, and the second definition is the cataloging at one library of all the books of a library system comprising more than one library, thus achieving uniformity throughout the system. Next definition is by ALA Glossary of Library Terms. ALA glossary has also defined it in two ways. First definition is the preparation in one library or a central agency of catalogs for all the libraries of systems. Second definition is the preparation of catalog cards by one library or other agency which distributes them to the libraries. Next definition is given by C.D. Needham. The cataloging of documents by some central organization such as VNB, its main purpose from a cataloging point of view being to save duplication of effort in cataloging departments of numerous independent libraries. And the last definition is given by Encyclopedia of Librarianship. The cataloging by one library or cataloging office within a system of libraries of all books acquired by all those libraries so that the result of such cataloging are used by the individual libraries. Objectives of centralized cataloging. First, it avoids duplication of work. Second, to make the most effective use of cataloging personnel. Third, to reduce the cost of cataloging. Fourth, to promote the uniformity of cataloging and catalogs. Fifth, to raise the overall level of quality of cataloging. Advantages of centralized cataloging. There are some advantages of centralized cataloging. They are as follows. First, duplication of work can be avoided. Second, cost of cataloging can be minimized. Third, uniform and standard cataloging improves the cataloging work. Fourth, cataloging staff work can be utilized for other services. Fifth, preparation of union catalog will become easy. Sixth, promptness in service is possible. And seventh one is use of sophisticated equipment for preparing entries is possible, which is not possible for individual libraries. There are some disadvantages of centralized cataloging. Of course, their number is very few. 1. Pooling up of the necessary funds to opt for centralized cataloging may be difficult for some libraries. Second, because of local variation, it may be difficult to go for centralized cataloging. Third, sometimes centralized cataloging system may cause delay as compared to local cataloging. Forms of centralized cataloging. There are few forms of centralized cataloging. They are as follows. First one is card or sheaf service. Second is MARC, machine readable cataloging service. Third is information service. Fourth is cataloging in source. Fifth is cataloging in publication. Sixth one is prenatal cataloging. First, card or sheaf service. This is the type of centralized cataloging where the unit entries are prepared on cards or sheaf by a central organization. Individual libraries can buy these cards in multiple numbers, and after adding the appropriate headings to the basic unit, these cards are filed in local catalogs. Second, MARC, machine readable catalog service. In this service, a central organization produces entries in a machine readable form such as magnetic type, etc. by using a computer from the magnetic tapes. Member libraries can either directly search the information from the tapes or use the service for the creation of conventional forms of catalogs and bibliographies. Third, information service. In this service, a bibliography is produced by a central organization from which libraries can produce their catalogs either by cutting out the entries from the one-sided printed bibliography and pasting them on cards, etc., or using the information for their own cataloging. The bibliography itself can also be used as a substitute for a catalog. Fourth, cataloging in source. In this service, cataloger get an authoritative catalog entry and tracing on the verso of the title page of a book. This has been started by Library of Congress as an experimental basis with the initial grant by the Council of Library Resources for including the cataloging information for a book in the book itself. Next is cataloging in publication. The cataloging in publication program was started in 1971. The Library of Congress received $2 lakhs as grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Council on Library Resources for this program for an experimental period of 2 years. Though this was a resurgence of the cataloging in source, but it was given a new name as cataloging in publication to show the difference between this project and the earlier experiment. This project was to include all forms of publications, motion pictures, maps, and books. While CIS was an experimental project, CIP program was intended to be continuous program. In 1999, electronic CIP program was introduced, reshifting wide-speed partnership became possible. With the development of ECIP in 2000, National Library of Medicine USA, followed by Cornell University and Northwest University in 2005, became the first members of ECIP program. Presently, 21 libraries across the United States are members of this program. ECIP participating libraries act as virtual Library of Congress cataloging sections to catalog the forthcoming titles published by an affiliated university press, selected independent publishers, or in specific subject areas. And the last one is prenatal cataloging. Ranganathan has for many years urged the inclusion of a catalog entry and a class number of each book on publication. He named it as prenatal cataloging. It involves completion of technical work by the National Central Library of a country on which book it before its release by the publisher. Either a master stencil of the catalog cards is prepared for each book before its release and its number is noted on the back of the title, or a standard entry, including tracing for added entries, is printed in the book itself, usually on the back of the title page. Ranganathan has estimated that there will be saving of 79% in the technical manpower of a national library system by the adoption of prenatal classification and cataloging of all home-produced books by the National Central Library of a country. Now, we are comparing centralized cataloging versus cooperative cataloging. While centralized cataloging reduces cataloging efforts by providing centralized services in cooperative cataloging, participating libraries cooperate in cataloging work. Second, according to MARC, centralized and cooperative cataloging are often confused, and partly because of cooperative project involving more than 2 libraries needs a central office to coordinate the work and distribute the production. Nevertheless, it should be kept in mind that centralized cataloging is that which is done by a number of libraries. Centralized cataloging need not be cooperative. Like the printed catalog card service of Library of Congress is centralized since it is done centrally, and though the card division of the library is made available to thousands of libraries to be used in their catalogs. It is not cooperative since it is done by library primarily for its own use, the cost being borne by that library out of the fund provided for the purpose of preparing catalog of its own. Centralized cataloging is preferred over cooperative cataloging due to increased uniformity, more prompt availability of cards, and economy. The third part of the module is Union Catalog. Definition of Union Catalog. Union Catalog is a form of cooperative cataloging. It has been defined by different libraries and library scientists in their own fashion. Dr. S.R. Ranganathan has defined it as list of all documents in two or more libraries, giving the names of all the libraries where copies of each document can be found. He further adds that a union catalog may cover all kinds of documents or any restricted kind of them. Another authority of library science, Nud Larson, has defined it. A union catalog is listing in one sequence of the holdings of two or more libraries. Advantages of union catalog. Some of the advantages of union catalog are enumerated below. First, helpful in procuring books on interlibrary loan. Second, some books are costly, for example, reference books. Neighboring libraries can decide what books will be purchased by which library. This type of cooperation will help in achieving economy. Third, it also helps in planning of stock in order to ensure better use of collection and its preservation for the future generation. Fourth, Union Catalog of Periodicals provides useful bibliographical information. It indicates changes in the career of a periodical. As the entries in the Union Catalog are carefully checked and standardized, the libraries can follow the same rendering. MARC, first and second, a central organization, catalog the documents, records the data on magnetic tapes, and supplies libraries with copies of the tapes. By using a computer from the magnetic tape, they can produce printed catalogs of their collection or entries on cards and various kinds of bibliographies. Many libraries maintain their catalogs in the form of a magnetic tape, for example, NASA, National Aeronautic and Space Administration. The Library of Congress investigations of the possibility of using automated techniques for the internal operations began in the late 1950s. As a result, a committee was set up under the chairmanship of Gilbert W. King to determine the feasibility of applying automated techniques in Library of Congress. The committee submitted its report in 1963 and recommended for automation of cataloging, searching, indexing, and document retrieval activities of Library of Congress. As a result, a program to produce cataloging data in machine-readable form called MARC came into existence in 1966. Financial assistance was given by the Council of Library, USA. MARC pilot project during 1966-68. In January 1966, Library of Congress invited 40 libraries to participate in pilot project. Out of those who responded affirmatively, 16 were selected. This included variety of libraries, for example, government libraries, public libraries, university libraries, special libraries, school libraries, etc. In 1966 February, a conference of participating libraries was called for describing first, concept, objectives, schedule, functions, and requirements of the experiment. Second, the operation at Library of Congress. Third, MARC format. Fourth, materials to be sent weekly to participant libraries. Fifth, the content of report expected from the participating libraries. Library of Congress took the Herculean task of completing within 8 months the design and procedures and computer programs required both for the Library of Congress operations and for the participants. Library of Congress started distribution in September 1966. First day was sent in October and weekly service containing 800 titles began in November 1966. The participating libraries were computing the tapes with the help of computer. The project was limited to cataloging data for English language monographs. Earlier, it was decided to end the project by September 1967, which proved unrealistic, and it was extended up to June 1968. And pilot service was extended to 4 more libraries. Total 50,000 machine-readable records were distributed. A final project report was published in 1968 describing the experience of Library of Congress and participating libraries. It contains a detailed description of MARC pilot system, including the tape format, character sets, bibliographic codes, and input procedure. An analysis of the cost of production during the project period, as well as brief summaries of computer programs used are provided. Now, let us discuss MARC 2. 4 months before the end of MARC first, project MARC second was begun after substantial evolution of MARC first format. It covered all forms of material, that is books, serial, maps, music, journal articles, etc. In the beginning, about 50 libraries became members of this program on subscription basis, and they were able to acquire in machine readable form cataloging data for American as well as foreign publications acquired by Library of Congress under the shared cataloging program. Since 1965, the Library of Congress has established a global network of national and regional offices for international cooperation. Each office is responsible for the selection, acquisition, and dispatch of material published locally. In Britain, office was located with the bookseller Stevens and Brown, and the bibliographical information was supplied by B&B in MARC tapes. From July 1969, Library of Congress shifted over to a period of testing the new procedures and programs, and a series of workshops were held throughout the country for the purpose of briefing library staff on the MARC second formats, Library of Congress procedures, and the users of the MARC data by libraries. The first subscribed guide to MARC distribution service, later known as Books, a MARC format, was published in August 1968, which desired to subscribe to MARC would have the necessary information for program. In accordance with the original plans to specify MARC formats for forms of material other than books, Library of Congress published formats for serials and maps in 1970, for films in 1971, and manuscripts in 1973. The music and sound recording formats were published in 1975. In the design of all formats, Library of Congress worked with other organizations that had expert knowledge of material concerned. The distribution services were expanded as funds were available. First, distribution of records for films began in 1972. Second, distribution of records for serials, maps, and French language books began in 1973. Third, up to 1974, about 5 lakhs records were supplied. During all these years, MARC has expanded its scope from English language records to all Roman alphabet languages. Besides, the conversion system has changed from paper tape input device online cathode ray tube terminals. Library of Congress plans to continue to expand MARC up till all the Library of Congress cataloging, that is 2,50,000 titles annually, is encompassed with MARC system. RECON, that is retrospective conversion. Since the MARC distribution service was found to be successful, the other libraries throughout America showed interest in converting their existing catalogs. If this were to be undertaken in a cooperative basis, it would be economical without any duplication of titles in machine-readable form. Since Library of Congress was also interested to convert its retrospective records, it agreed for a large-scale centralized conversion of retrospective cataloging records and their distribution to other libraries. With the help of Council of Library of Resources, the Library of Congress was able to conduct a study. This was called as RECON retrospective conversion. This study brought out a report in 1969 and examined in detail the hardware and software required for a large scale conversion. Existing Library of Congress files to select the one which is most suitable for conversion. The rationale set priorities for conversion and to do the job satisfactorily, and the cost of hardware, software, and manpower for conducting the conversion process. As a result of investigations, the study arrived at the following conclusions. First, the MARC distribution service should cover all languages and all forms of material. Second, conversion of the retrospective records to machine-readable form could be done early. Third, this service needs a standardization of bibliographic content, and machine format standardization may be the same for current as well as retrospective material. It should be centralized effort and should be under the direction of the Library of Congress. On the basis of these recommendations, RECON pilot project was launched in 1969. The pilot project continued for 2 years and published its report in 1972. During this pilot project, about 58,000 records were converted. MARC in other countries. MARC came to UK in September 1967 with the grant of OSTI. By September 1968, tapes were produced. From May 1969, regular weekly service started. Note, several institutions are making use of this service. Some other countries like Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Netherlands, and Scandinavia, etc. have agreed to work to same MARC format standard. MARC is constantly changing. US MARC and CAN MARC were harmonized in 1997 to create MARC 21, means MARC for 21st century. British Library dropped UK MARC in favor of MARC 21st. New tags and fields were added to accommodate new media, that is, Field 856. Electronic location and access was added in 1993 to make bagged records accessible from MARC records. In July 2002, the agreement for the development and publication of MARC 21st format was signed by the representatives of the National Library of Congress, the National Library of Canada, and the British Library. Some of the applications of MARC are noted below. First, MARC tapes are used for selection purposes. Second, it is useful in production of catalog cards and book catalogs. Third, a bibliography in microform, books in English, is produced by merging BNB/MARC plus LC/MARC. Fourth, LC selects appropriate records from the MARC files for inclusion in the production of bibliographic tools for the blind and physical handicapped. Fifth, MARC is now searchable online by LC card number and within the Library of Congress. Sixth, the MARC database is being used more and more frequently in Library of Congress as a bibliographic reference to supplement the card catalogs. So, students, let us summarize what we have learned from this module. We have studied definitions, objectives, need and purpose, advantages and disadvantages, and form of cooperative and centralized cataloging. We have also discussed definition and advantages of union catalog as well as MARC first and second. Thank you.